Brought to you by Charity Mobile, the phone company that supports life and family. 5% of your monthly plan price goes to your favorite charity. Mention offer code TRADITION for a special Christmas offer. Learn more at CharityMobile.com.
There's a story being reported in the secular media that sounds sinister in a way that it's being presented. It makes it sound like Francis is about to engage in a public, diabolical, demon-worshipping ritual meant to open the doors of Earth to other dimensions and let demons onto the Earth or something. The secular media is saying this, and it's utterly irresponsible because when it comes to news articles, one of the reasons I give you more details in news articles than some people want is because oftentimes, you've seen this on social media, you've probably done this on social media, I know I have, we see a headline from being shared on social media from somewhere, and we don't read the article, and then we just get a false impression of something, right? We don't handle it the best. That's why I go into some depth with news articles. And you may have noticed that people are very tense and high-strung right now, with stories of drones and escalating wars and tensions and all the rest of things going on at this moment just in time for Christmas. And so the secular media doing this is irresponsible because their headline, you just read the headline, you think Francis is about to do something that seems like right out of that first chapter of Windswept House. If you've read it, you know what I'm talking about. The secular media needs to lighten up a lot. Just take some responsibility when you do this. And I'm going to show you this story. Headline, we go to the New York Post. You'll see why I say this is irresponsible. Pope Francis to open 5 sacred portals on Christmas Eve for a ritual that's never been done before. Thanks, New York Post. I hate it. It sounds ominous, but it's not ominous. It's not the first time this has been done. There's one detail here that's the first time that this is done. So we're going to go over this in some depth because it's worth talking about. And the secular media bothers me a lot when it comes to this stuff. Now, as a note, I usually put the text on screen for these, but the New York Post website is so bad. They'll give you one sentence and then there'll be like a big video ad followed by another sentence from their article, then another big video. It's terrible. So I'm just going to give you the article. I'll put links to it at returntotradition.org in today's show notes later. Here's the details. Quote, Pope Francis will commence a centuries-long Catholic tradition on Christmas Eve and introduce a first-time historical addition to the holy ritual. Starting on December 24th, the pontiff will open a series of 5 holy doors throughout the Vatican, including St. Peter's Basilica, plus Rome's 3 other basilicas to commence next year's Catholic Church Jubilee. It's actually going on right now. We've entered the Jubilee Year of Mercy. A joyful commemoration of faith that normally occurs every 25 years. The door at St. Peter's was sealed shut by a wall of bricks since the Jubilee Year of Divine Mercy in 2016, and on December 2nd, those were ripped down to ready the door for opening as part of the rite of recognition. After that Christmas Eve ritual, Pope Francis will open a symbolic door inside the Roman prison of Bibbia on December 26th, the feast of St. Stephen. It will be the first time a pope has opened a holy door at a prison, reported the Denver Catholic. Quoting Francis, I think of prisoners who, deprived of their freedom, daily feel the harshness of detention and its restrictions, lack of affection, and in more than a few cases, lack of respect, Pope Francis said. In order to offer prisoners a concrete sign of closeness, I would myself like to open a holy door in a prison as a sign inviting prisoners to look to the future with hope and a renewed sense of confidence. The objective of opening the doors later this month is to usher in a year renewed in hope. As Christians find Christ as the door of our salvation, Pope Francis wrote in a proclamation, or bull of vindication, for the 2025 year-long celebration. God's word helps us find reasons for that hope, he added. In the heart of each person, hope dwells as the desire and expectation of good things to come, despite our not knowing what the future may bring. End lengthy quote. Is that weird from a Catholic perspective? Yes. It's weird because of the opening of the doors to a prison. That has never been done before. Is it un-Catholic and heretical to do that? No, it's not. It's just odd because it hasn't been done before. Jesus in Scripture commands us. He commands us to visit prisoners. And it's fine that Francis is doing that. We as Catholics in the modern world tend to leave prison ministry mostly to priests, but Jesus commands us to do it. It's a long list of things he commands us to do, and that is one of the things we are told to do. But can you see how the media makes this sound a little sinister? They use the word portals to describe what he's doing. Francis is opening doors to buildings which are strictly speaking portals. It's actually one of the definitions of the word portal. Go into a modern definition after this, though. The Oxford English Dictionary defines a portal as, quote, a door, gateway, or doorway of stately or elaborate construction, the entrance to a large or magnificent building, especially when emphasized in ... end quote. The rest of that is hidden behind a paywall, which is why I can't give you the full definition. The other definition comes from our, very pagan times, where the dark arts are glamorized in movies and in the culture and seen as almost normal now. A portal is also a doorway to what people think is another dimension, to wherever demons are. The Post knows that, which is why they chose that word. Remember, America is a Protestant country, and a lot of Protestants think that the Catholic Church practices the dark arts. You've seen some of the wild things people say about the Catholic Church by people whose ancestors have not been Catholic probably since the 16th century, who are what we might call Americans of their heritage descent, meaning might be direct the descendants of the Pilgrims, that they have imbibed of the peculiar forms of American Protestantism and the weird accusations they make. And so they believe essentially that popes and priests are essentially wizards, right? I mean, I've seen wild statements made about the Catholic Church by these kinds of people. It's part of the American stereotype about Catholics. They say the weirdest, most bizarre things. And you see it in that headline. Again, if that story would not have gotten the traction, some people saying some weird stuff about this online because they just read the headline. If they had said Pope Francis is opening doors, nobody would care. Here are the rest of the details from the article, which shows how normal all this actually is, other than the fact that they're using a prison for one door. Quote, on Sunday, December 29th, Pope Francis will open the Holy Door at Rome's Basilica of St. John Lateran, of which he is also the bishop. Then on New Year's Day, also a holy day of obligation, here's your reminder about that, the Solemnity of Mary. On the traditional calendars, it's got like 2 or 3 different names, depending on if you're using the 1962 or the 1954 or the 1945 liturgical calendars, but we'll leave that for another time. The Holy Door at the Papal Basilica of St. Mary Major outside the Vatican in Rome will be opened. Lastly, on Sunday, January 5th, Pope Francis will open the 5th and final door at the Papal Basilica of St. Paul outside the walls in Rome. The Catholic tradition of celebrating a jubilee began in the 1300s and was initially stretched out every 100 years rather than 25. For centuries, the holy doors have been opened at the 4 Roman basilicas to usher in memorable years for the church. In modern times, Pope John Paul II also celebrated a jubilee in 2000, at the time writing about the significance of the holy doors pertaining to one's faith. To focus upon the doors, to recall the responsibility of every believer to cross its threshold. To pass through that door means to confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. It is to strengthen faith in him in order to live the new life which he has given us, John Paul II wrote. It is a decision which presumes freedom to choose and also the courage to leave something behind, in the knowledge that what is gained is divine life. End quote. See? Harmless. In fact, what they're doing is actually a good thing if you believe Francis is the legitimate pope, because typically when you participate in these events, what happens? You gain indulgences. And every Catholic loves getting indulgences. You have to meet the conditions for the indulgences. But if you're going on pilgrimage to Italy next year, you can participate in this stuff. Now, Francis defenders would even go so far as to say not only is it harmless, it's more Catholic than what most of us spend our time thinking about. Francis defenders would demand more of this. I won't argue with them. It's not Francis's reminder to be merciful to prisoners. That's the problem, honestly. It's his heresies and his total focus on mercy without the justice of God coming into the equation. That's the actual problem, or at least it's one of many, many major problems with him. But it is certainly not that his focus on mercy. Almost nobody objects to that. Very curious what you have to say about this in the comments, please. So let me know in the comments. Are you surprised the secular media would turn this into mystical portals and all that kind of nonsense? Or does, especially when we talk about the New York Post, which tends to run pretty inflammatory headlines at times, or is this just, do you think, total misunderstanding from secularists on things? Because the word portal is a weird one to use. that it's a very weird one to use on this because if you're writing the typical, you don't may not know this, but a typical newspaper article is written at an eighth grade reading level. And a lot of people are having a hard time with that now, thanks to the failure of our school systems. But they write it at an eighth grade reading level, which is why using the word portal for door is a purposeful choice. All right, folks. Thanks very much today for tuning in. And please pray for everybody we spoke about in this today. And as always, pray for the church. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.